to the show with your friend and mine. So tell me, Dr. Squee, who's it gonna be this time? We like to hear you talk, and we love to hear you listen. And if you are not subscribed, you won't know what you're missing. So welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. Welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. Welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. Headphones up. Here we go. Welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. Tonight, Squee welcomes... And now here's the man himself, Dr. Squee.
Hello and welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. I'm Dr. Squee and this is my show. I apologize, I realized I didn't unmute to introduce my guest. It's Mackenzie Flohr. But I'm now going to do an intro as if we don't know that and then, add it to the stream. We'll just go with it, guys, all right? Look, it's been a ramshackle busy week. I've been trying to organize. We are going to be part this Saturday of Superpod 3. Please do tune in for that. All details on the Dr. Squee Show's social media about all the goings on for that. We're raising money for comic relief, though. It's going to be amazing. I'd love to say my hair was in tribute to that, but it just always looks like this. If for anyone, by the way, wondering what's happened to my beard, it was a shaving accident. I went to shave it, and I had put the little clipper head on it. I kind of pulled it away and realized the clip head was just absent. It just fallen off. So just by the way. So anyway, look, my guest today, after the other day when we did our little catch up on WandaVision on the final episode, being surrounded on International Women's Day by two men, I thought, let's just make up for that by having a kick-ass woman on for the week of for the week of International Women's Day at very least. So this is an international multi-award winning author of the popular let's just try that again. It's a multi-award winning author of the popular young adult fantasy series The Rite of Wands. A storyteller at heart, she loves to inspire the imagination. Her previous published works have included The Rite of Wands, The Rite of Abnegation, if I've got that word even close, the Binge Watcher's Guide to Doctor Who, history of Doctor Who and the First Female Doctor, and her short stories appear in the anthology collections The Whispered Tales of Graves Grove, bestselling, and Unknown Realms. Please welcome to the Dr. Squee Show, before I butcher any more words, Mackenzie Flohr.
Hello.
How are you doing, Mackenzie?
Good.
I said some of those words right, I think.
Yeah, you got most of it right.
It's been a long week. I can't even manage to trim my beard successfully this week. You were saying before we came on that your wife had done your hair. It's a good job I didn't try any amateur hairdressing. I can't even manage a beard trim.
Yeah, and I have to get it cut again because it just, we're allowed to here in America to go in to get your hair cut. But I'll be honest, I just don't trust the general audience out there without having a vaccine. I just don't. And it's probably because my wife is actually in healthcare on the front line. So I'm looking more, even though she's gotten already the vaccine, I still just, I just don't trust people.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it doesn't seem like you're open in America due to any better numbers than us over here.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't know what Christian from the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS is saying about me, but screw you, animal. Sure. Which animal in specific? You'll have to let me know, Christian. So, yeah, of course, one of your partners, which you work with, is the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. You're a regular contributor. Are you on every episode now? I think you're a contributor to begin with. Am I getting any of this correct?
Well, I'm in quite a few, though. Recently, I haven't been on as many just because I want to have more people on there that are not, just me always all the time. So I'm more wanting to make sure that other people have equal opportunities. So, yeah. And new voices.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Now the Gallifrey Stands is no more, the best Doctor Who podcast.
Yeah. So the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS is actually Christian's baby, and it started about, if I recall, about 2 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago at this point, and it was just really just a talk show, and then it became more when COVID happened, it became more of an interview type of show where we got to bring on people from Doctor Who, and it's since then has grown. We have over 50,000 likes on Facebook and subscribers as well. So it's awesome. We've got a partnership with Wizard World Conventions here in America, and we're working exclusively with Doctor Who Worlds Apart with their awesome trading card game that's going to be coming up.
That's amazing. And yeah, just to have seen, by the way, just big round of applause to Christian and to all of you there at the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS with everything you've done. It's amazing. And he puts what Mackenzie said.
Yeah.
There you go. It's that. But like, come on, let's talk a bit about yourself. So, like, I'm just looking at, and pardon me that the setup's a bit weird for anyone watching, that I'm looking to the side to read stuff. I had a whole setup, everything went wrong. My internet went down, so I'm going by a 4G. Like, it's a whole thing. Anyway, I'm going to look awkwardly to my side as I read this, but your award list on here is just sick. Like 2017. Forward Indies Book of the Year Awards Silver Medal winner Fantasy. 2018 International Book Awards finalist in the Fiction Fantasy category, I'm taking it. 2018 Imagine Awards for Best Fantasy Novel. 2018 Literary Classic Awards Gold Medal winner Best Young Adult Fantasy Novel. 2019 Top 10 finalist in Fantasy in the Author Elite Awards, and 2020 honorary mention Science Fiction Fantasy in the Royal Dragonfly Awards. So not just like a plethora of awards, just one after the other, year after year. I mean, just wow, what a journey you've been on over the last few years.
Yeah, and it kind of, which is just really kind of strange, is my journey right now as the author of that series is in a way going very similar to Murta's journey in the actual series itself, though not quite the same. He's actually a author. He's a doctor, basically, from back in the medieval times. So we're looking at like 13th century Ireland. And in that series, he has a plague, which ironically, it's very similar to COVID-19. So there is a similarity where back then people thought it was a hoax when it comes to plagues back then. And I'm speaking of here with the Black Plague specifically. You had people where instead of just wearing masks, they had this big white stick they would come around. They'd have that would force the social distancing of the 6 feet, and you would have to stick it out to somebody if they were too close to you. So it's just,
can we bring those back, please?
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off there, but sorry, I'm putting horse before cart here though. Before all the awards, before everything else, I love the fact that the Rite of Wands is so obviously inspired not only by these wonderful worlds of fantasy, which we all love. There is also obviously a very huge dollop of history, so much inspiration from the zeitgeist. Where do you get started on the journey of thinking about, where does it first occur to you, the Rite of Wands?
Oh gosh. Ironically, it was through the Lord of the Rings of all things. There was back in, let's see, it was 2002, I think it was. There was in the state of Indiana, there was a museum that was showing all of the sets and accessories from the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And I decided that I would go see it because I was really a big Lord of the Ring buff. I still am a Lord of the Ring buff when it comes to it. And while I was going there, it was kind of like what happened to J.K. Rowling, where she was on a train and had this kind of like, boom, I passed by a sign and there was the Rite of Wands series. So I couldn't tell you what that sign said. No idea. I don't remember it. All I remember was this is the Rite of Wands. But the problem was the main character didn't actually become prompt until 2014. So for those who are maybe working on a book and you're having problems because it's taking you forever or taking you multiple years and you're just like, oh, I'm never going to finish this, don't stop. Literally, it took me a decade to get the first Rite of the Wands book actually written, and I'm still working on that series. That series is going to be 7 books by the time it's done, and I've only published the first 2, so there's still a long way to go.
And how do you go from that initial idea, and how much does, like, was it straight away, like, you know, you say boom, but was it a kind of fully fledged story in your head? Did it kind of just all come together just straight away, or has it kind of evolved as you've been writing it?
it's evolved as it's come to writing it. Originally, the main character, Myrta, and his family weren't even in my original rough draft. He didn't show up until 2014, and it was because I was going through the series, and at one point I thought it was a dead book because it was just, I had this great idea, it wasn't going anywhere, I couldn't really connect to the characters. And then Wizard World, which is one of our partners, ironically, for the Traveling TARDIS, had this amazing opportunity where, for the first time, they had a doctor in Chicago, and they had Matt Smith. And I said to my wife, I'm like, do you want to meet a doctor? I mean, we hadn't met any actors from Doctor Who before. So she's like, well, yeah, let's go spend the day in Chicago, go drive there, drive back in one day, and go meet Matt. So we did. And that is when Myrta McKinnon literally came about.
I don't have one of yours, but I've got a one to hand. Also got Sonic in case it goes in that direction for the conversation.
I've got Sonic too, though.
If we touch onto the screen, there's...
Ooh. Well, by that, I'll have to Sonic you that way.
Oh, I will match any device you have to hand. Can you tell it's two nerds speaking?
Right.
Oh, that's funny. Just can completely derail myself, but yeah, Rite of Wands. So you kind of got these kind of all ideas together. The thing which I am always kind of really impressed with in an ever busy world of fantasy and an ever popular world of fantasy, it's kind of great to have seen in our lifetimes, because I'm guessing you're around the same age as me. I won't ask because that's polite. But I love the fact that kind of sci-fi has kind of gone on a journey, and fantasy of when we were kids, or certainly when I was, that it was kind of a shunned thing. If you were a Doctor Who fan, you did not say this in public. You had to have some sort of secret handshake to admit it to, your friends in the playground. Now the playground is full of sonic screwdrivers and people kind of just reveling in the series, which is great. But with that busyness of the world of sci-fi and people being influenced by all these things, how do you make sure your property is unique? How do you make those differentiators between the Rite of Wands and, say, Harry Potter, Doctor Who, all these other wonderful properties?
Yeah. Well, for there, it comes to your unique world. And with Rite of Wands, its unique world is that each wizard and witch are not born with their powers. They have to earn them. And they have to go through what's called the Rite of Wands ceremony, which is a little bit like Christmas carols. So you'll get a glimpse of your past, your present, and your future. And for Myrta, he actually saw that he was going to die of a plague. And so he becomes literally obsessed with wanting to change his destiny. And that's really more of what the whole story is. It's about destiny and about fate versus destiny. And you making your own choices versus what is actually fate. Can you change your history? Is it possible to do that? We don't know. It's one of those things.
It's lovely to have the mystery kind of spun out as well. Yeah, you want to keep people guessing. And with that, when you're kind of like creating the first book, when you're writing the first book, was it already in your head like this is going to be a series? You just kind of betting on yourself that I'm going to like leave it so that it's going to be a whole series of books?
Yeah, I did originally envision it to be 3 books, though, as the series started being written itself, literally through Myrta's character, it became way more. I actually had a conversation a couple years ago with the publisher. I go, it kind of went Game of Thrones on me. And they're like, oh, that's not a bad thing.
Oh, that's wonderful. And do you find also that when you're kind of writing, are you someone who kind of managed to stick to the plan? Because I find the second that I start writing, just whatever I had in my head, it's kind of like it goes off in that direction. And it's almost like for me, I've got to have the plan in my head to go away from, because I can't just start writing with really nothing in my head. That rarely happens. I've usually got an idea in my head, which I then kind of my head ignores somehow. How does it work with you with the process?
Yeah, I'm what's considered a plancer, which means that I outline, but then I also will write by the seat of my pants. So I don't necessarily follow that outline to a T when I'm writing. Now, if I'm doing screenwriting, which is what I'm doing actually right now, I'm working on transforming the Rite of Wands into a 5-year series on TV. And that's a little bit different, where you have to have that structure as certain ways that things have to be told in a certain way So there, it makes it a little bit more challenging for me, but also exciting because I get to really explore different areas that aren't in the book or haven't been seen yet in the book that are coming. And now I retold the story in a different way, but still keeps the key idea in the story in sync, even though it might not happen the same way.
That's brilliant. And did you like, so yeah, let's take it. So you've written the kind of the first Rite of Wands book. How do you then kind of sell it? How do you go out there and find kind of the producer for it, or a kind of, sorry, distributor for it?
Well,
Publisher, that's the word I'm looking for. I knew there was one in there.
In that case, I actually, it was again a Wizard. It was another Wizard World Chicago convention where I was walking through Artist Alley and I met somebody who had heard about my wand, and she thought it was really cool. Now, for those who might not be able to see it really well, this is actually crafted by those who made the Harry Potter wands for the films. And they specifically created the one for Myrta. I gave them a drawing. I go, hey, could you maybe like replicate it? So that was really the selling point. This particular publisher was like, we've never seen an author do that before. Go out and spend so much money. I mean, that thing, just to get an idea of the value of that, where just being a single wand, it's the equivalent of the real sonic screwdriver 3 times over. Yeah, it was big. And then it just happened that I was at a convention and I gave it to Matt because I'm like, you know what? This is Myrta's wand. I'm writing the character for Matt Smith. So naturally, I would like to have a little bit of kind of like his DNA a little bit into the wand, just so for good luck, good measure.
Are you trying to clone Matt Smith? Be honest now.
No, just as a character.
Okay. Just checking.
I'm married,
Doesn't mean you couldn't have a pet Matt Smith clone.
I could, well, considering Myrta answers always with his voice, it is odd, I need to, it seems like I would have to have the real Matt in my life, somehow. And so that's what I did, is I brought the wand to him, and that story is a whole nother story of itself, because it was so amazing to watch him literally transform almost into a schoolboy kid as he's flinging the wand around. And then later on, I found out that he actually was wanting to be a wizard, always wanted to be, and was supposed to actually be in Merlin. And there, the BBC Merlin, he actually was cast originally as Merlin. And Amy Pond, Catherine Gillian, was actually, Karen Gillian, she was actually supposed to be Guinevere. So it just happened that
it was fated.
Yeah, it was fated.
Fated they were meant to work together.
Yeah.
So, like, you've got the first book, kind of, it's gone to the publishers. Do you, like, what's that moment like? I just love to speak to an author about that moment when they first kind of see their book in print and you first get it back.
Oh my gosh, it's surreal. It's your baby. That's literally what it's like. It's like you're giving birth to a baby and it's your book. So you're very proud of it and you're protective of it. And, and you want to be able to tell people all about your book. And then you come into the reality that most people that are your friends and family are like, so you wrote a book. Okay, tell me something else. That's literally how it was for me. Most of my friends are like, oh, that's cool. So that was like, okay, so I'm already at a challenge where I have to figure out who is my audience and how do I sell this to people if I can't even get my own friends or family to pick up the book. How the heck am I expecting a stranger to do it? So that was.
And how do you go about that? How do you go about kind of selling? What I'm loving, kind of picking up from your energy, what I always kind of do from the kind of brief interactions we've had in the past, is that you seem someone who's always so willing to sell themselves, to kind of like put themselves out there. Does that help when you're kind of selling, I guess? Yeah.
In fact, my book won't sell unless I'm actually there. It for the past 4 years, except for last year, because last year was just a dud altogether. My books, about 98% of the time, always sells when I'm literally there, because usually people come up and they're like, where's that wand? I want to hold that wand. So they'll be the wand, or they will be walking around Artist Alley and they'll be like, oh, I know that cover. I know that. Who are you? So most people say, I don't know who you are, but I know that book. And then when I say, oh, well, I'm the author, they're like, no. Yeah. So that's kind of just really strange too. And I had one person literally almost go goo goo gaga, to put it in better terms there. And that was different too, because I'm like, just wrote a book. I mean, it's just a book. But to them, it meant a lot. So it's really neat to connect with people.
That must be so gratifying to have that moment with the fans.
Yes.
Amazing. So, like you mentioned about the kind of upcoming series which you're working on at the moment, is there anything you can tell us? Is there anyone attached at the moment? Any juicy details?
Well, I wrote the first script, I could say that, and it did go to a producer, and then it got turned down because it was too fantastical, which is kind of funny because it's fantasy. So I'm like, well, that really doesn't make much sense. And then I am now actually, this upcoming Saturday, I'm actually doing a consultation with a executive who specializes in fantasy, and she's going to give me some little tidbits of what I can do to make it so it is absolutely unresistible, which I really do feel it's very close to that. The series does have that way of capturing people. It's just that the biggest thing I've heard is I need to expand on Myrta, and he was already in 75% of the script, and now the people are saying, well, you need to have him more in there. I'm like, goodness gracious, I'm going to have to treat this like a Doctor Who's episode where the character's there the whole time.
Speaking of Doctor Who, kind of mentioned the book that you wrote about the first female Doctor amongst other Doctor Who things in there. So one thing which we do every week on my radio show, which this is going to be going out the audio as part of, is we have a big question of the week. And this week it is about women who've inspired you. Tell us a little bit about some women who've inspired you along the way.
Well, this is actually a very interesting story because I actually got to work for this person about a decade ago. So it was really cool. For those who are into soap operas and watch The Young and Restless specifically, Melody Thomas Scott, who plays Nikki Newman, she's been there since 1979 and has played that character consistently. For me, her character was inspirational to me especially during my teen years. I'm an only child. I grew up with very conservative parents, very restrictive parents, but yet they did allow me to be creative. However, there was a lot of times where I dealt with depression. I went to a school where they were abusive to me, both physically and mentally. My dad, unfortunately, is also mentally abusive. So I had it both ways, and having to witness that, especially going towards my mother. We actually had a conversation. She asked me one time, well, what's the very first thing you can remember? And I said, honestly, it's Dad screaming, sign the papers, and just, and she couldn't believe it. She's like, I'm like, can't believe that you actually remember that. And that's your earliest memory. I said, yeah, that's my earliest memory. So it's that type of atmosphere. And soap operas have this way of whatever's going on in your life, it can kind of make it seem like what your problems are nothing compared to these soap opera characters. And that was very true for Nikki Newman. She was a stripper who came from nothing, met this Prince Charming Victor Newman, and he swept her away. And that was very inspirational, seeing two strong, you could say, parental figures dealing with their own dramas, with their own families, and yet they're able to overcome everything. Yes, they got divorced multiple times, but they always found each way back to each other. So it's like it was the perfect Cinderella story. And I loved Nikki so much that that was my first web design project. I started doing a fan site for her because at that time, this is when dial-up was going around, so there was nothing out there. There was really nothing about Nikki or Melody in particular. And a couple of years after, I got this email out of the blue, and it said, I know you're not going to believe it's me, but I was on your website, and I'd like you to connect with my publicist. And that's kind of where things went. Literally, after that, I didn't hear anything from anybody for a couple months. The next thing is I'm getting a phone call from Hollywood saying, hey, we heard that you're going to be doing a website for Melody Thomas Scott. We'd like to fly you out to California and appear on a soap opera network, and she's going to be there, and she has no idea that you're going to be there too, so you can meet each other. And that ended up turning into going into Entertainment Tonight, to seeing her doing with Edward J. Scott, which is her husband. They got to renew their vows. I got to go to the set of The Young and Restless. I got to see what it was like in the day of a celebrity of a soap opera star. And it's just like, wow.
That's amazing. And it really just goes to show kind of what we've been a little bit talking about here, is that if you believe in yourself and you put yourself out there, and if you put yourself into something you love, such as kind of The Young and the Restless or Doctor Who, any of these things, what you can do as a result of it, what you can like spin that into. So you're doing this website just out of love for the show and love for this actor and this character, and then you end up going to Hollywood as a result of it.
Yeah. It was like, what? No one would believe that. It's like, really? Out of college, that's exactly what I did. My internship was doing that website, going to and getting that experience, and it was nice to gain actual. I only got to go there for one day on the set, but that one day was enough so that I could see how things actually run behind, how different it was and how much more advanced it is. Like, I had no idea that they would film almost 3 months ahead of what actually appears on television, though I wonder now how that is with COVID and how far advanced they are now. But it was really cool. And then you get to seeing it filmed, and then you have to be like, oh, hush hush, because you can't talk about what you actually saw.
Wow. So by the way, if anyone's watching, if you've got any women who've inspired you over this, drop it in the chat. We'll read out here. Now, for the last time we spoke, it was actually for an event I did called Squee Fest, which was raising money for charity, and we did a kind of mental health little check-in with Diversely Geek. I just wanted to kind of check in with you, because I love how kind of honest and kind of open you are online, talking about so many kind of mental health issues around LGBTQ and all this kind of stuff, which everyone's having to deal with at the most unbelievable time in our lives, certainly, to put it mildly. How are you doing? How do you cope? And how's it been dealing with all of that at the same time? Now, what you say about the former president of America who's just left office, certainly his administration didn't forward the rights of LGBTQ.
No.
How's all that's been for you, kind of dealing with all that?
Honestly, it has been, or anything about the ex-president, nothing that he did really surprised me. Even when it came to January 6th, when there was that big attack on our Capitol, I was saying, when he got elected, I said something like that was going to happen. He had that narcissist type of personality, all about me, never got away or never got punished for anything bad that he could possibly do or be accountable for anything. It was just more like, oh, it was that person's fault, or it's that person's fault. It's Obama's fault. Like the ridiculousness of that, but not actually realizing that what he really was doing was bringing out the hate that we see. And we see this in fandom. We see this in Doctor Who with right now, where all these people are just throwing all this hate on Jodie since she became the female doctor, because God forbid the doctor becomes female. Whoa, So you have that, and then you get this plague out of absolutely nowhere, which for me, at the very beginning, I was really scared. I even at one point, I actually wrote out my will. I've never written a will before, but I wrote it out because I thought I was going to die. And then a literary agent, which is how the screenplay comes in effect, she said to me, you know what you're going through right now, your main character, you're living what he lived through back in the medieval times, except you're experiencing it now. All those raw emotions, that's what he's feeling. You need to be able to bring this is the time now to bring this into a screenplay so that other people can learn from him and hang on to him like you have for so long to bring you comfort through this whole thing. And that's really what I did. And the one thing too, and I'm going to share this because this is something that I really, every day, I say this to myself too, about any type of situation. There is a So this is a shout out to Granny on Twitch. She says she enters streams every time with the 3 questions. If you answer the 3 questions, so what it is about you, what it is about the situation, and what is about like plain day, what is it? If you can answer those 3 questions honestly, you can get through most things in life, if not everything. And there is something that I'm not able to disclose that's having to do with my series right now. And that's literally, I'm getting through it because I'm thinking, this is this is what's meant to happen. We just got to go with the territory and just, we'll get through this.
Okay, but like, you know, seeing as your book has ended up being a bit prosthetic, like to what's happened, could your next book be about the economy recovering and like us all having loads of money? And could you just write something along those lines? We'd be really grateful, and everyone being healthy now. Could you write that into a book next?
Yeah, I actually get teased about that. They're like, you're like, Mackenzie, why did you try to run a flag in your book? I'm like, but I didn't know it was 3 years ago. I literally published a book in 2017. So no, I didn't start writing the book when COVID-19 happened. No, I actually wrote this right prior to that.
Maybe the recently dethroned emperor going to, you know, to the dungeon of some description.
Yeah, we can definitely have something like that.
You can put all that sort of thing. Maybe like a smaller kingdom a few, like 100 miles away, like maybe their leader kind of somehow going away would be like good for me anyway.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Love you, Boris. No, I really don't. Anyway, that's another story. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been absolutely wonderful. Please, guys, check out The Legend of the Traveling TARDIS wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe on Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere where that glorious podcast is. Mackenzie, it's mackenzieflohr.com, I believe, for your website.
Yes. And if you want to know more about the Rite of Wands in general, the riteofwands.com. That's where you can find out all the information about, including to see a little bit of the script, Bible. Yeah, learn everything.
Check it out, guys. And if you want to listen to the audio of this, along with me, Paul G, and James King talking about the finale of WandaVision, so it's really a magic special this week. Please go to the Dr. Squee show on the bear.live every Thursday, 8 p.m. till 10 p.m. That's GMT. Please check out your local time. So in Mackenzie's time, which is EST, that would be 3 o'clock, I think. Look, just Google it. Like, it's 8 p.m. GMT.
Yes, we're 5 hours behind.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining me. No one's written any women who inspire them, so I can only imagine people watching right now hate women. But like, that's not me. That's on you guys. Okay. Much love to everyone. Mackenzie, now as this goes out on radio, like, is there a song you'd like to play for the special lady in your life, or for any woman?
Well, there is a song that I can think of, though the title of it is eluding me at the moment. But yeah.
Okay,
so
Mackenzie, after this, message me the song, and if you're listening on radio, this is the song she picked.
Yeah.
If you're watching on video, that's just an awkward silence, is all that is.
Right.
But on radio, they will hear that right then.
And it's not
Mackenzie...
YMCA either.
Wouldn't that be great? It's like, this is going out to Mackenzie's wife, YMCA. Thank you very much. And the way I usually like to wrap these things up is by, firstly, of course, thanking my lovely guests, and reminding everyone, in a world where you can be anything, please be kind. I've been Dr. Squee, and that was my show.